Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a couple of weeks, definitely. I am slowly getting back into the groove of things with baby coming in a few months and just everything that I have to get done. So I haven't done a whole lot of reading. So far, we're currently on April and I have only read 10 books. So I wanted to just kind of do a reading wrap up and kind of waited until we had a decent amount of books that we could kind of review. Technically, I've read 11 books. I finished a book yesterday, but I'm also working on a reading vlog, so I'm probably going to be talking about that book in that reading vlog. If you follow this channel, you know that I usually talk about most of the books in this reading wrap up in reading vlogs, but there's actually a few books that have kind of gotten away from reading vlogs, so I thought we could just might as well just talk about them. And I want to start in order. So I do have to say this hasn't been a great reading year so far. I haven't had a lot of really high rated books and I haven't had a lot of books that I constantly think about. But starting very strong and not in a good way with Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. This is the second book in the Empyrean series. And this book pretty much got me to completely abandon the series. I don't have any interest in picking up Onyx Storm, which is the third book in the series. I just don't really care about this series anymore. I ended up giving Iron Flame 2 stars, and the reason behind that is because I thought that this book was so messy. Like, there was really no plot that the author was sticking to, and then they kept mentioning names and throwing in new characters and places, and I kept finding myself saying like, huh, like literally, who is that? What are you talking about? I was so confused. The first, I want to say 150 pages, I should probably take out the bookmark of this book because I finished it. The first 150 pages of this book were so slow and so confusing, and I do remember a lot of people saying that. People did end up liking the ending of this book, but I thought the ending was honestly a little bit unnecessary. At this point, I wasn't really in love with the characters. I wasn't connected to them, and the romance was starting to get a little bit annoying. Also, the reasons why like Violet gets mad at Satan are so stupid to me. I just couldn't really take them serious. I feel like I don't really like where the series is going, so after giving this one a 2 star, I think I'm going to just completely DNF this series. I have no interest in continuing that. Then I read The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I have this book on my Kindle. If you don't know, I have the Kindle Color stuff. I have a lot of videos talking about this device, so you can go watch that if you're interested. But I ended up giving this book 5 stars. This was such a refreshing read for me after having read such a bad book, which was Iron Flame. I love this book. This book was about 2 ice skaters who essentially knew each other since they were kids, so it was like friends to lovers. And it was so angsty because he literally learns how to skate and do all these things just to be in her life and just to feel worthy of her. It is very messy, and there's a lot of really, it kind of gave Magnolia Parks in the sense. A lot of people are comparing it to Magnolia Parks, and I'm like, why are people comparing this book to Magnolia Parks? It makes no sense. It has nothing to do one book with the other. But actually, I think like the really messy storyline, and by messy I don't mean like it was a messy plot, it was just like their lives and their decision were just so messy that I can kind of see that comparison. Absolutely loved it. You don't really have to be into ice skating and stuff like that, but personally, after reading that book, I am really interested in ice skating because it was just so entertaining. The year was going pretty good at this point. Then I picked up The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I have been putting off this book for so long, mainly because I heard that it was like really sad and was really triggering, and it was all of those things. This book was so beautifully written. I think Kristen Hanna can do no wrong. I unfortunately haven't really been able to pick up another one of her books because all of her books are pretty lengthy like this, and sometimes that kind of turns me off from reading a fiction book. So this one though, 5 stars. This is a historical fiction book, my first and only historical fiction book. This takes place in the very beginning of World War II, where essentially Germany occupies France, and you have these 2 sisters. Their lives are very intertwined, but you're getting also alternating timelines where you see, you're kind of confused as to who is giving the present day timeline, and honestly the ending really got me. So many things about this book that honestly, if I think about it, I just get so sad. Also very hormonal because of the pregnancy, so I don't want to think too much about the plot of this book, but this book was just devastatingly beautiful, and I don't want to give too much away, but definitely if you read any of the books from this entire wrap-up, let it be The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, The Crash by Frida McFadden. I don't really have it on my Kindle anymore. This was just typical Frida McFadden, like thriller. It was fast-paced, but I do feel like the plot twist didn't really make a whole lot of sense. So it's about this girl who is pregnant. She had one night stand with a guy, kind of, and she's pregnant, and then her car crashes and she gets quote-unquote rescued by this kind of scary looking man and gets taken to a cabin where his wife is like starts taking care of her, but then things kind of take a wrong turn, and I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I gave it 3 stars. It was entertaining. It wasn't like the best thriller I've ever read, but it also wasn't the worst. And I read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This book, I do have to say the beginning of this book was very entertaining, and I did really like the different storyline that it kind of had, because I feel like she always adds STEM in her books, but this one also talked a lot about swimming and the stuff that they were doing. I had 3 stars. Now I'm trying to think that I might have rated this book a little too high. I think I gave it 3 stars because I wasn't totally bored reading this, and I do have to say the audiobook of this book was actually super entertaining. So I do recommend, if you're gonna read this, maybe try the audiobook, because the voice actors just make it a lot more entertaining. These 2 divers, swimmers, I don't even know, and they obviously have like their little side STEM jobs that they do at the university, and this was supposed to be super spicy. It really isn't that spicy, honestly. If you handle Colleen Hoover level spice, you probably can handle this book. It was really underwhelming. Like the romance part was really underwhelming, and it was more lusty than love, so it wasn't really for me. I think Ali Hazelwood books sometimes are hit or miss for me. This one was kind of a miss, but I also recommend it if you like this type of book. I don't want to say the main trope of this book because I think my channel could probably be taken down, so just look up what this book is about. I picked up People Women on Vacation because they announced a new movie that's coming out, and honestly I don't know why I put up this book for so long. I feel like when I pick up this book years ago, I had just finished Beach Read, which was probably my top Emily Henry book of all time, and this wasn't really living up to that, so I put it down. But then I picked it up again and I read the last, I want to say I had like 100 pages left in this book. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I'd highly recommend this, honestly. I think if you like Emily Henry's writing, this is just gonna hit regardless, because the movie, I feel like it's actually gonna be a good book to movie adaptation, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's about these 2 friends who go on these vacations every summer, these like kind of low budget vacations, and they kind of have been pining for each other since they first met, but none of them is really taking the first step, and they have like really weird attachment issues with each other. But I think it's a really interesting story, and I do really like how Emily Henry portrayed these characters, and I cannot wait for the movie. So there's that. Then I read an arc of This Book Is Cobra Wine to Us by Molly Morris. I don't think this is coming out until June. It was a pretty entertaining story. I gave it 3 stars. If you haven't noticed, 3 stars is kind of the baseline for me this year so far. A lot of books haven't really surpassed that rating because they just haven't. I'm trying to be a little bit more picky with my 4 and 5 star reads, because it's okay that not every single book you're gonna read is gonna really hit. I feel like I used to be really generous and just throw around 4 and 5 stars, and I feel like if I'm spending my time and my money to read some of these books, I should be a little bit more picky. And also, I'm a book reviewer, so I'm trying to be a little bit more meticulous with how I rate my books. So with that in mind, I read this book. I gave it 3 stars. This is magic realism, so it's a really cool concept. I feel like it had a lot of potential. This is about this girl whose family gets what is called essentially a rewind, meaning that you can go back to any point in your past and fix what happened. Like, you get to relive that and try to fix what happened, but everyone just gets one singular one and you have to apply for it. I think it's a really cool concept. So essentially she's trying to use hers to go back to the moment where she kind of essentially broke the heart of like this guy best friend that she has, because she does have feelings for him, and it takes place in Joshua Tree. I thought it was really cool. I don't think I've ever read any book that takes place in Joshua Tree. If you don't know, I lived in California for a while and I love Joshua Tree so much. I went there quite a few times when I lived there, and it's probably one of my favorite places on earth. So it was a really cool concept. The romance was a little bit underwhelming. I feel like I was waiting for more angsty teenage romance, and it really didn't happen. Because of that, I gave it 3 stars. But I think it's a really cool concept, so maybe come around June you might want to give it a chance. I do want to have the physical copy of this book. I'm looking forward to buying it when it comes out, because it is, like I said, a very cool concept of a book, and I feel like a lot of people could enjoy it. Then I was kind of on a magic realism kick. And if you don't know, Emily Henry used to be pretty much like a YA, meaning young adult, magic realism author. She used to write a lot of those, so I'm kind of working through her backlist right now. And I ended up picking up this book, A Million Junes by Emily Henry. I cannot find the physical copy of this book to save my life. I don't know where it went. But I love this book. I gave it 4 stars. It's about this girl who she lives in this magical / haunted house, and her family has always had a lot of magic attached to them. And then you have this berry farm, and you have this rivalry. They're rivals. I'm sorry. With this family that lives like near their property, and she ends up kind of having a crush on the boy from the family they're supposed to be rivals with. And it's really cool because they essentially can kind of go revisit things from their past, but not in the same way that the book before I was talking to you guys about does it. Like, you can go back and fix it. You just have to essentially like relieve that and deal with it, the emotions that, I don't know. It's a really cool concept, and I really enjoyed it. I do have to say that she has definitely, her craft has changed so much since she wrote this book. So if you don't expect super mature, top-notch Emily Henry writing, because you're not gonna get that, because this is her backlist, meaning that this was before she was like a, I want to say a published author, but what's the word for that? I don't know. Like, those books were published, but maybe they were self-published or something. Like, she now belongs to like a whole like editorial / publishing house that she publishes books with, and these books weren't with Berkeley whatsoever, so it's a little confusing for me. I read Ready or Not because I am pregnant and I thought I would pick up a book of probably the least favorite trope ever in books, which is pregnancy trope. Ready or Not by Cara Stone. This book was a little annoying. I gave it 3 stars because I feel like there were some things about pregnancy that were kind of relatable, but from that, I didn't love this book. I really didn't. I would recommend this book if you want like a really fluffy light read. Aside from that, it really didn't stick with me. She gets pregnant from a nightstand that she has, and then she kind of goes back and forth between these 2 guys, the father of the baby and one of her friends. The thing that kind of thing I was surprised was the love interest ended up being like the guy that's like not the father of the baby, and I was like, okay, like that kind of makes sense, but I don't know. This is not a spoiler, by the way. You can find most of this stuff like honestly in the back of the book. Didn't love it, really. I can't. It takes place in New York. That's probably like one of the main reasons why I gave it 3 stars, because that was enjoyable, but I can't tell you a whole lot about it. It really didn't stick with me. Then the last book that we read this year, well, before April hit, I think, was Conditions Will by Jessa Hastings. This cover, I do have to say, it's a little controversial, it's a little sacrilegious. I do think it's a very stunning cover though. Jessa Hastings does like really well with her covers, and I do really like it. I ended up giving 4 stars. I do have to say the Conditions of Will is not my all-time Jessa Hastings favorite book. I enjoyed it a lot, but there were some things about it that were like kind of a little annoying. Like, for example, so it's about this girl who, she's pretty much like a human lie detector, and she goes back from London to Georgia, and because her father passed away, and then she reunites with like all of her family. There's a lot of drama there, and also her gay brother, who has a sponsor that travels with him from LA, and she has this like massive crush on like the guy, her brother's sponsor, but then her brother also has feelings for this guy, so it's also kind of complicated. It's not a love triangle by any means, because the guy that she has feelings for is straight, so he has never really harbored any feelings for her brother. But it's just kind of a little back and forth. I did think that the Oliver character was so immature and so insufferable, a very selfish character, I do have to say, and because of that I was like, I don't think I can really give this book a 5 stars. And the conversation sometimes was like a little bit immature, where didn't make a whole lot of sense, but I did really enjoy it. It's Jessa Hastings. I don't think anything Jessa Hastings is ever gonna be below a 4 star for me. I did really enjoy this book and I will be recommending it. Also a stunning cover. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys. And there's like some mystery and plot twist in it, which made it extra fun. That's all I have. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully we have a bigger reading wrap up for the rest of the year. But make sure to hit the subscribe button. I am currently just staying at home. I'm not working. So this is pretty much like my full-time job right now. So I really appreciate if you guys supported this channel, because it does really help me. But I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye guys.